So you can prove that 2 plus 2 will always be 4, but you cannot prove that gravity will always work.
That's correct. Math and science are very different enterprises.
Okay.
And any mathematician will tell you this.
Okay, I think we could demonstrate, maybe that's a better word, that
Demonstrate's a better word, yeah.
Gravity has always worked every place we've tested it. It's always worked every time we've tested it. And it's logical to assume it's going to work the next time we test it.
Yep, and every credible source ever has corroborated the geologic column and the evolutionary theory, as far as I'm aware, which is why I'm going to look up the sources you gave me to see.
Oh, no, wait. That's a cheap shot.
No, it's not.
Every credible source. In other words, if you don't support it, you're not credible. How can you win an argument like that?
That is not what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm catching.
But let me comment on a couple of things.
Well, real quick, what about people like Dr. Stephen Austin or Larry Vardaman, who are PhD geologists who used to believe the Earth was billions of years old, and then converted to believing that it's only 6,000 years old?
I would be very interested in learning why they changed their minds.
Well, you can. Dr. Stephen Austin actually gives a lecture called the Radioisotopes in the Age of the Earth lecture, and says that it's the very same things that he believed established an old Earth convinced him that the Earth was young. Steve Austin, yeah.
Okay, I'll look him up.
Not the beer-drinking professional wrestler, but the geologist.
Okay, great. So, 2 more things I wanted to say. One of them is, you were talking about Walpins earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, those don't exist.
Walpins don't exist?
They do not exist.
You need to tell that to the...
Livescience.com.
Yeah, I've been there. They bred a false killer whale and a bottlenose dolphin. Both of those are in the family Delphinidae. They're both dolphins.
Well, you need to contact the SeaWorld in Hawaii or San Diego. I think they both had one.
Yeah, they did breed a false killer whale and a bottlenose dolphin, but those are both dolphins. They're not. One of them is not a whale. It has whale in the name of the animal. It's a false killer whale. So it's like a false orca. And an orca itself is classified as a dolphin. They have never bred a whale and a dolphin.
So have they bred an orca and a dolphin?
Even if they did, it wouldn't matter because an orca is a dolphin.
So a killer whale is a dolphin?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Have they bred a lion and a tiger?
Yes, and those are both in the genus Panthera.
Uh-huh. Are they different species?
They are classified as different species, perhaps erroneously. But
okay, so what's the definition of species?
Yeah, I think you do have somewhat of a point about that. The definition does seem a little bit inconsistent.
Say it's interbreed. A lot of people define species as 2 creatures that can interbreed.
In the wild?
Which is fallacious. They just say 2 creatures that can interbreed. Some people would say it's interbreeding that takes place naturally in the wild, but some people just say, if they can interbreed, they're the same species.
So why are
it's obviously a very fuzzy definition, and that is what you expect if evolution were true.
That's what you expect if creation is true.
Well, it's what you expect if creation is true, and microevolution were also true.
Microevolution is true, depending on how you define it.
Okay.
But it doesn't go any farther than that.
That's a topic to discuss another day because it seems like a huge problem for creationism. Because it seems like you guys believe in evolution more than evolutionists do. Because if you believe that all the animals came down off of the ark, the different kinds of animals, and bred to be what we have nowadays, you have a lot of explaining to do because there are so many alleles in the wild of these different species. You would be claiming that these things would be happening faster than the evolutionists themselves think they happen at.
Well, first of all, I would point out there are several factors that obviously do cause animals to produce varieties. For instance, climate.
Is mutations one of them?
Mutations is one.
Okay.
Climate is one. If you dropped all the dogs in the world off in Alaska, go back and visit it in 20 years, none of the short-haired, dingo type will survive. Only the husky type will survive. Okay.
Yep.
The climate selects, nature selects a certain body type to survive in a certain area.
Right.
Okay. That happens. Nobody argues about that.
Natural selection. Yep.
Natural selection certainly.
Hugh Ross argues about it, actually, doesn't he?
What's that?
Doesn't Hugh Ross argue about that?
Yeah, he believes in the fixity of species. Yeah.
But the only thing I would agree with Hugh Ross on is you should button your shirt in the front.
Okay. And your pants in the front.
And pants in the front.
Yeah,
too.
button his pants.
Okay, so he's a nice guy, but he's a heretic in many areas, and I told him so. So the speciation certainly happens. Natural selection certainly happens, but there are limits. This is what the people just go crazy. They look at dog and wolf and say, "Wow, same. They had a common ancestor," and then they jump to the wild conclusion that dogs and bananas had a common ancestor.
Yeah.
That is precisely what evolution teaches.
You paint it to be such a cartoon. cartoon. Like
it is a cartoon.
They don't jump to the conclusion that rapidly. You know, like with Darwin and Origin of Species, there's about 400 pages in between those two observations.
Darwin, on page 217, said, "It's a wonderful fact that all plants and all animals throughout all time and space are related to each other."
Yeah, they definitely are related in some sense. That's the point of his book is to conjecture how related they are.
Why would you think a banana and a dog are related?
They have cellular similarities. There's genes in common.
So why wouldn't that just as much prove a common designer?
Yeah, that thing by itself might show common designers, common designer, or common ancestor.
Sure.
That thing by itself does not, really, really, really support evolution. It's just one little piece of the puzzle.
Okay. When we see 6,000 years of human history that tells us dogs produce dogs.
4,000 years, you mean?
Or 4,400 years, okay. I had a lady come to a seminar a couple years ago. I should have written her name down. I should probably, if she's listening, have her call in. But she said, Mr. Hovind, our family, for I think she said 4 generations, has been involved in dog breeding. We have kennels, and we have hundreds and hundreds of dogs, okay? She said, we are convinced after 100 years of selectively breeding dogs that if you gave us 50 generic mutts, you go pick out mutts out of the dog pound. You pick out the dogs. Give them to us. We will, in 100 years, develop Chihuahuas and Great Danes and everything in between in 100 years of selective breeding.
Yeah.
So most of the varieties we see, like people use dogs as an example because there are so many varieties, and they're still obviously dogs. All of that, or nearly all of that, is precisely because of human intervention, not because of natural selection.
And how many dogs do you think there were that came off the ark?
Probably 2.
2? Okay, so how many alleles for each gene would there be then?
Well, the gene code, for instance, of the original dog, all of the ones we have today are a slice of the gene pool.
Now, why would that be?
That's the way it works. Nature selects a certain slice to survive, just like pesticides can select a certain slice of the cockroach, population to survive.
It selects certain slices of the alleles in a population now.
Correct. It's not creating anything.
This is just for the record. This has already been answered pretty thoroughly in Noah's Ark, a feasibility study, and defended by critics, or defended against critics by John Baumgartner and many other people who are involved in this field right here.
Noah's Ark, a feasibility study.
Yeah.
Right, John Baumgartner. A good book. Answer your question. But see, to point out that to pick out the mote in a creationist's eye to say, wow, you think all the dogs came from 2 dogs, is to ignore the beam in your own eye that says all these dogs came from a rock.
Hold on a second, Ken. If you think that there's 2 wolves or dogs that came off the ark, they would have had at most 4 alleles of any particular gene.
Okay. I have said many times, I don't know how many are...
Disagree or agree with that statement?
That I don't know. I would have to do some research on that.
You need to figure out the answer to that statement first, because that's the whole crux of my argument.
Well, 4 alleles.
Yep.
How many alleles were in your male and female rock when you started?
You're trying to dodge the point.
I'm trying to make the point. I'm trying to compare the minor problem you're seeing with the major problem you should be seeing.
I'm not arguing abiogenesis with you anymore.
Okay.
I never really did, but I'm never going to, because it's a can of worms I don't know very much about. It's totally irrelevant, though. I'm talking about allelic diversity, and you're talking about rocks. They have nothing to do with each other.
Well, go to Noah's Ark, a feasibility study, and I've often said I don't know how many original kinds of dogs there were. There were 3. I don't know. Time's up, Jared. Call it tomorrow. We'll be here, folks. 2:30.